Hey guys, Steve here with the weekend update for Saturday, July 19th, 2014. And as we always do, we're going to take a quick look at the market just to get an idea of what kind of market we're in. And just as we thought that the market was breaking down on Thursday due to the news out of Ukraine and Russia, the market really rebounded yesterday on Friday, really defining this area of the box. So we can actually modify this a little bit and potentially say that the box is for consolidation is somewhere around there, and let's see what happens. Maybe this trend line does have to, is being broken more because of time than price, which is fine. When it breaks by price, that's usually when the issue and a more significant correction could occur. So, but on the weekly chart, still trending higher in this channel. Looks like there's no reason to really start looking at any type of short plays. And this is the reason that you let price dictate your trading and not the news. If you were watching CNBC or something on Thursday, you could have came in Friday and said, all right, I got to sell a lot of stuff, and just to, right size the portfolio, and then miss out on potentially this move higher, which brought us back to all-time highs in the model portfolio, and almost all-time highs for the markets themselves. So we're going to take a quick look at our model portfolio, and I will post the actual Thinkorswim position statement on the blog post. But for right now, this is just for us. I feel like it gives us a little bit more information. But as you can see, we have in here the closed trade from TWX that we closed on 17th. 7 days it was open, and we made 17.74% or 3.44 R, meaning that we made, if you take 3.44 and times it by 599.84, that would come out to $2,066. So we made 3.4 times the amount of our initial risk on the trade. Other positions, Apple and Mondelez are the only positions that are down for us, and everything else is up, between half and about half an R. And we did have, so actually let's go through those positions real quick first. So Apple basically had those 3 big sell-off days, this bearish engulfing pattern here, came back to the trend line and bounced. So maybe we are establishing this trend line as a higher turn, an actual confirmed trend line. It should be. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 touches. So now if we would get a breakout over 97, then we'd be able to actually move our stop up here to this 93.05 area, which would be the last significant low. ADM continues its breakout. We're basically moving higher. So actually what we're going to do now is we're going to take this stop and move it to this 45.91 area. I don't think that we should really come back and test. Actually, you know what? We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. Because if we came back, broke this 45.90, we could still go to trendline support. So we're actually not going to be able to move it. And that's, something else. I like to have it break 2 significant areas. So if it broke 45.90 and also at the same time broke trendline support, then that would be a legitimate stop. But because we would not break trendline support if we broke 45.90, we're not going to move it there yet. So this one, unfortunately, it still stays down at 43.50. I'd really like to move it up. Let's move it to the breakout. So we're going to move it to 45.20. AMT moving higher again. This one we can move to 90. What was it? 90.75, let's say. Because this would be, if we came down, we would break that price level and trendline support and most likely the previous resistance area. So we can move that fairly confidently. Amazon. This was our box that we had identified, the breakout. Now we're moving higher. The stop still down here around this 322.83, and our trend line is now running essentially like that. So the stop is still around 320. EQR, still moving higher. We can potentially, you can look at this small area as a secondary breakout. So again, it's the same kind of situation as I think it was ADM. So for right now, we can actually move stop to, I didn't have this one set. Let's move our stop to the middle of the consolidation, 62 area. Now this one's a different story. This one we can be fairly confident we can move right to this 54.66 level. Because what's going to happen is, if we came back to that level, we would be breaking. Here was a secondary consolidation in this area right here. So that's, and we had a breakout above it. So that's kind of one of the criteria I look at for moving the stop. Second is we would be below this trend line support and come back into the range. So if we go under, let's see, 54.75, that would probably be an area to look at potentially getting out of that trade. Mondelez, same thing. Not, we just entered the trade, but it's really moved sideways to down since we've been in it. We're probably close to our entry. But, we're coming back in, potentially testing this trend line, bounce higher. So if we can get a bounce higher, we can move our stop to this 38 area. TWX, we are out of. As you can see, we exited here at 84, and now it's up at 87. So, like I said, we weren't going to catch the top, but in the same respect, we took a nice chunk out of it, and we can see if it sets up again. And the last one is Wyndham, really sideways to down since we've entered. I think we actually had a good fill. We had a good fill right around 75, 76, so we're actually positive on the trade, but stop still remains down at 72.45. So a couple alerts that triggered on Friday. ADP nice breakout from this little consolidation. You can see a weekly break, and now we're getting a daily break and consolidation. So definitely a strong move higher. However, earnings are on the 31st, so we are going to pass and not take a position in this trade. This is a nice looking trade though, with a nice tight consolidation. More aggressive traders could put their stop rate under 79, or 80, and then you could also put it back here at 78.70 or down below consolidation at 78.10. Facebook was another one that broke out. So we had this consolidation pattern here, where it really went sideways for, I would say, from beginning or middle of May till now, so about 2 months. Now it's finally starting to break out. So, but again, earnings are on the 23rd, so we're going to take a pass on that. Honeywell, this is one we are going to take a position in. So Honeywell, we had originally identified the box, the consolidation area right in here, and that coincides with the weekly consolidation area. So we had this nice strong move higher. Now we went sideways. Now it looks like we're starting to break out again. So now on the daily chart, what we can do is we can actually draw another box like this in a little bit of a tighter pattern. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually take a position in Honeywell, because if you look at our model portfolio, industrials, 0% allocation. Okay, so we're going to be able to take a position in Honeywell. and we're going to put our stop below this 92.90 level. So we're risking about $4 on this trade. And earnings were actually on Friday morning, it looks like. So we're out of the way of earnings. Earnings may have been what caused the gap higher, and the close higher, but the market was also strong. So, I'm confident that this is a good trade, and we'll see what happens. But we're going to manage our risk, and we're going to put our stop right below. We're going to put it right around this 92.90 level. So a close below 92.90 would be the exit for this trade. Host hotels, that one is also breaking out. Here's the consolidation pattern that we have. Sideways movement breaking out. But again, similar to ADP and Facebook, earnings are the 31st, which is less than 2 weeks away. So we are going to take a pass on that. Lilly, again, this is actually one that I'm long personally. I basically got in back here somewhere, rode through this consolidation. Now we had another breakout. So this is a weekly breakout. Now we're getting a daily breakout. But unfortunately, earnings are the 24th. So again, we will be taking a pass on that. But as you can see, we have this nice trend line through here. So we're really, this would have been a great trade because we'll be able to keep stops real tight. But it is what it is. There'll be other ones. Last one is McKesson. This one kind of triggered, but I actually reset it because we didn't get like a fairly significant break. It really just poked its head above. So this one is actually still on our weekly watch list. So now we're actually going to take a look at our weekly stocks. I'm not sure how many there are here. Probably similar to the last few. But what I did this time is I really tried to, if I had to squint to really look at how the pattern was, I passed it. Because the market's moving strong, and these should be fairly obvious to the point where, we should be able to look at these immediately and determine areas of support, resistance, and consolidation, and potential breakout areas. So ACE was one that we had previously. That one's still testing the bottom of the box. Breakout over 105.46 would be the trigger. AIG, similar to ACE, breakout over 55.69. It had one point, I guess last week, definitely broke well below the box, but you could see it close back within it. So this would be something that, if we had a stop here, we would actually still be in the trade and still looking for it to break out. But breaking out of the weekly, now we're looking for a daily breakout. AMT is a new one. So we had a weekly breakout. So now we're looking for a point where we can get long on the daily chart. I'm looking at this area of consolidation right now with a potential trend line, something like this. So this one could go sideways a little longer, but let's see, 23.28 would be the breakout, and 22.40 would be the breakdown. So for right now, on the weekly chart, we have a nice strong move higher. And now on the daily chart, we're looking for some confirmation and a position to enter. Aon, really same thing. Just we had this last week, still consolidating, waiting for a break higher. APA, it looks like this week we got some more gas and oil plays in the watch list, but this is similar to, I think it was the Netflix trade I showed you guys for that anatomy of a trade, just to go through a couple. This is a basing pattern as far as I'm concerned. It came down, went sideways for almost a year, 2 years, and now is breaking higher. So we finally got a breakout above this level, this 93.40, which was back here. Nice strong move, and now what we're looking for is to somehow define the box. I don't know where the bottom of this box is for right now. I'm going to say it's here. And if we get a breakout, that would be our stop level. So there is your trade in APA. And here's your trend line. If my computer wants to draw it. So there's your, again, over 101.75 is a breakout. Another oil play is Anadarko Petroleum. This one again, really had this small weekly consolidation here, which you could see right in here. And now we're getting another, another small box on the daily. So again, not sure exactly where the bottom of this box is. Could very well be here. We almost had a breakout, but it looks like it failed. So now we're going to try and consolidate a little longer. APD, Air Products, similar. Here's our weekly breakout. And now we're looking at a box, again, not exactly sure where the bottom is, but I definitely know where the top is. So 103.73, and here's the trend line that I'm looking at. So this one could definitely work sideways a little longer. Maybe if it breaks out now, maybe the trend line switches to something like that. But here's your consolidation in APD. So a breakout over 130.73 would be our trigger. Allegheny Technologies. We're going to say right here, similar to I don't know if it was Anadarko. No, Apache, I think. We had a nice basing pattern, breakout. And then here again, you had, on the daily chart, we had an area right there of consolidation, move higher. So, this one was extremely tight. And again, I'm not exactly sure where the top or the bottom of the box is, but I know a breakout over 46.20 would be a good entry. And again, you can see that by, here's a trend line, 3 points. So this could easily come back and then pop higher. So for right now, breakout over 46.21 would be the trigger. BDX was a position we had on, or not a position, a watch list stock from last week. Still waiting for that breakout over 120.26. Baker Hughes, again, another oil and gas energy play. But a similar pattern. We had this big long consolidation. We had a breakout, came back and tested. Okay, now it's moving higher. So we got to figure out a point that we want to get long this stock. And to me, it looks like we're looking at something along that trend line, and potentially here's the consolidation area. So again, over 75.40 would be a good position to get long, because it looks like from what I'm looking at, we had a longer term trend line right through here, say. Now it's being broken by price, or I'm sorry, by time, not price. So now we're resting, and now let's wait for a breakout higher. Broadcom, this one I'm looking at more along the lines of this being a big resistance area that it finally broke through. So here it broke through. Now it looks like it wants to go higher. Not sure exactly where the trend line would be yet, but I'm looking at this as the box. So a breakout over 38.70 would be the trigger for an entry. ConocoPhillips, this one's been on a tear really since the beginning of the year. Started down around 64, now sitting around 86. So this is one that I look at and say, okay, the trend's really strong. Where can I get in? And sometimes you can't just buy it blindly. But I'm looking at something along that as a potential trend line. So maybe it got a little extended from itself, pulling back. And now we could look at maybe this being a nice tight consolidation. Breakout over 86. We could put our stop at 84 and see where it takes us. Computer sciences, really on the weekly chart, we're still in a consolidation. Right, I'm looking at something along those lines. But on the daily chart, it looks to me as though we're putting in a nice higher base, a nice high consolidation right below resistance that potentially could take us through resistance, something maybe along those lines. So here, breakout over 64.40 would be the trigger. CVX, here's our trend line that I'm looking at. And again, I'm looking at something along these lines for, it was consolidating, maybe basing for weekly, on the weekly chart for about a year. Now, finally broke out, kind of pulling back. So let's see if we can get a breakout. And this is what I'm looking at is the higher consolidation. So over 132.94. Estee Lauder, same thing. Nice high or nice weekly consolidation for about a year. Finally starting to break out above it. And now I'm looking at something along these lines. Maybe this one is actually down here. So for right now, over 76.95 in Estee Lauder will be the entry. Eaton, this was one that broke out last week, came back into the box, so it's still on our list. But for right now, I'd actually be looking for a breakout, probably over these couple of tails, so around this $80 level. It would be the trigger on that, and then we could actually use this 77.39 area as a potential stop. Expedia, same thing. I mean, I hope this kind of, you guys can look at these quickly and get an idea for what I'm looking at immediately. But again, a nice weekly consolidation. Now we're putting in a higher base along a trend line. Maybe it's in there. I don't know. That looks pretty good to me. So over 82.14 is the trigger in Expedia. FedEx, once again, weekly consolidation, breakout. Now we know we want to be long. Well, where can we get long? I actually do talk to myself when I do these too. So maybe somewhere in this area. Okay. So over 154.35. Corning, we had that last week, still consolidating in this area. Kind of almost broke down, recovered on Friday. So over 22.37 would be the entry. Green Mountain Coffee, still consolidating over those tails, around 126, 127. Let's call it 128 would be the entry on that, but I still think this wants to come back and into this trend line a little bit more. Genuine Parts, same thing, still consolidating. This is one that we've had on for a couple weeks now. It did break out, but I don't remember. I guess the reason we didn't take that trade was because of earnings. So let's see what happens. Earnings look like they're coming up on Monday. So let's see if we can get a push above 88. IVZ, again, this is one we've had on. Still consolidating over 38.77 would be the entry after a weekly breakout. Now we're looking for a daily breakout again. Nordstrom's, nice breakout over here was the weekly breakout. On earnings, it looks like moving sideways. And now let's see what happens if we can get above 70.24. That would be a good entry. Kraft, again, really long basing pattern here. Now it's finally above it. Let's see if we can get another breakout over 60.55. Lockheed Martin. Again, nice, similar to Honeywell, right? This is very similar to Honeywell. Nice long consolidate or trend higher. Rested, broke trend line by price, by time, not price. So it just kind of went sideways in this consolidation area. So a move over 167.60 would be the trigger on that one. Lincoln National in this weekly consolidation, but we also are able to put in a nice higher daily consolidation within there. So a breakout above that, we can really define stops. And I would look at a trend line, something along these lines right there. And as I said, guys, I'm doing this on the fly. I obviously have identified the stocks prior, so we don't sit here for 3 hours. But, as far as drawing the trend lines and everything, that's something that I'm doing right here in front of you, at the same time that you're watching this. So, same thing with Southwest. Nice, strong move higher. This could be similar to Honeywell and to Lockheed Martin, where this could break trend line by time, consolidate for a while, then pop higher. But for right now, stop or trigger over 27.75 would be the entry. And I think this was one, or I know this was one that we definitely had in the original model portfolio before I had some personal stuff going on. But we broke out right here was our breakout. So if we look at this, our initial stop would have been here. Then we could say, all right, well, then it went higher, consolidated for another bit of time right in this level, right? So this was another long consolidation until we got a breakout. So again, then our stop would move to here. All right, and now we're back up here. So now, our stop would either be down here right now, or potentially, because we got these couple little breakouts, we'd probably be around this 25.71. So, that's a way that we would trail stops. Enter here at 22, and our stop right now is sitting at 25.71. So we're locking in $3.71, so almost a 15 to 20% gain on our initial position. Macy's, one we had last week, still moving sideways. Break over 60.50 would be the entry. Microchip, same thing. Another one we had from last week. Weekly consolidation. Now we're getting another consolidation. So a breakout over 50 would be the trigger. McKesson, this is one we talked about before. Really barely broke out, so it's still on the list. Maybe it consolidates a little longer, but if we can get a breakout over 191, that'd be a great entry. MetLife, we had the weekly consolidation in here. Now we're broke out, consolidating again. So over 57.13 would be the entry on that. Was this McGraw-Hill? McGraw-Hill has this weekly consolidation in here. Now we're getting a nice daily consolidation right in here. So again, breakout over 84.63 be a great entry, and it looks like we could draw a trend line, maybe something around there. Maybe it's down further. It all depends when we break out. So that trend line is arbitrary at this point. Marsh McLennan, I guess this is one we had on last week. So again, we're moving higher in this channel. Trend line potentially right through there. So maybe it needs to move a little bit more sideways, but a break over 52.50 would be a good entry. MMM, another one we've had for a couple weeks. Got a brief pop over here, but again, earnings were within 2 weeks, came back within the box, so it stays on the list. And we're really looking for an entry over, let's see, what is that, 146.20. So I'd put put it right basically above this previous close. Merck, another one we've been in, still consolidating. You can see it's in this weekly chart. We have a higher in this weekly consolidation. Now we have another higher consolidation on the daily chart. So a break over 59.50 would be a good spot to get in. Marathon Oil, again, another one of these oil stocks, energy stocks. But you can see here, this was a nice weekly base, broke out. So once it broke out, now what's it doing? Now it's really consolidating in this level here. So a break over 40.28 would be a great spot to get in. Now let's see if we could draw a trend line here. Trend line potentially, something like that, or even like that. So there's a couple different trend lines there. Murphy Oil, similar marathon. You had a weekly consolidation in here, got a breakout. Now we're getting to the point where we potentially have a higher base, another consolidation. Remember, I always said usually after it breaks out on a weekly, if you don't have a consolidation before, then most likely you're going to have a consolidation after. So you can see here was the breakout on the weekly somewhere in this area, right in here. So it consolidated way down here. It ran, finally broke through, but then when it broke through, there wasn't enough buyers to really keep it going. So now we're consolidating, picking up, people that are now saying, okay, doing the same thing we're doing, are saying, okay, maybe this is a good spot to buy. And we're going to get, when they finally push this above $67, that's when we're going to jump on board and say, yep, that was a good spot to buy. And we're going to set our stop right below the 64.91 level. A couple more here, guys. So, what is this? Northrop Grumman. Again, this one's been on the watch list for a while. Weekly breakout, or weekly consolidation, looking for a breakout. Again, this may be one that it breaks out and then it goes sideways. But for right now, over 125.16 would be a good spot. Nvidia had a rough Friday. I don't know if there was earnings or no, it doesn't look like there's earnings, but still in that weekly box. For us right now, we may be identifying this as another box in here soon. Depends on if this continues down to the 1773 level. PBI. Again, this is one we've had on. Poked its head above on, looks like Wednesday. Closed below. So over 28.17 is our entry on that. PKI. I don't know. Perkinelmer. Never heard of it. You guys heard of it? I've never heard of it. Anyway, weekly breakout. Now we're consolidating again. See how, again, we had the weekly breakout. It came from all the way down here, broke out, and then said, all right, well, now I ran out of steam. I need to rest. Now it's resting, and we're waiting for the move higher. Prologis, same thing, moving sideways. Over 42.15 area is our entry. PSA, public storage, same thing, moving sideways. Really sitting right above this, or right below this weekly resistance. Qualcomm, same thing, nice strong move higher on the weekly chart. Now it's resting, waiting for another breakout. Sealed Air, really moving sideways. Here's our, you could draw similar to Qualcomm and a bunch of other ones. You could draw this trend line along the weekly that was broken by time, not price, move sideways. So now a nice breakout over this 35 area would be a good trigger, and you could see we're getting a nice consolidation in the upper range of that box. So we could even say, depending on when this breaks out, if this breaks out now, in the next, say, 2 weeks, our stop would actually be at 33.15 and not 32.24. Travelers. I mean, at this point, I think you guys can understand the setup I look for. They're all very similar. So there's our weekly consolidation. Got a breakout. Now we're consolidating on the daily chart. Potentially have a trend line. Something like that maybe. So moving sideways over 95.86 is a good entry. Time Warner cable. Now this is not Time Warner. I mean, it is Time Warner, but this is, I guess, a division of it. But who knows? I don't care. Here is a nice weekly consolidation. And now we're getting this little trend line. And we're getting a consolidation area right above the breakout. So over 150 is another great entry for Time Warner cable. Tyco moving higher. Here is a weekly consolidation, a breakout, now a rest. Here's where it's resting. Over 46.50 is our entry in Tyco. Union Pacific, we've had on nice tight consolidation. I mean, this is definitely one that I want to try and get long. So over 102 would be 102.96 would be a weekly all-time high, and then looks like we're looking for something around 102.25, a close above that. UPS, another one that we've had on for, I think, either last 2 weeks. Had a little breakout here. We never took it because of earnings. Now it came back into this box. So let's see if we can get another push over 104.28. VF Corp really testing the bottom of the box. This one looks like it wants to roll over and come back into this 56.76 level, which would be weekly support. But for right now, we're looking at a breakout over 63.85 for an entry. And the last one is Exxon. Again, we've had this on. It's tried to break out a couple times. You could see here on the 23rd of June, and then also on the 16th, but no real follow through. So our our alert is actually going to go up to this 104 level now, because we really want to make sure that when this breaks out, that we're good to go. And as you can see in a lot of these, we're really looking for when they break out to become all-time highs. So there's no resistance above them. The trade we put on Amazon is a good trade because it's a high beta name, but Amazon on the weekly chart is not making 52-week highs. So there's a bunch of resistance points above it. This could be the 375 area, then it could be 408. But it's a good trade for where we're coming, but you have to worry about some other things that you wouldn't have to worry about with 52-week breakouts. But I think this is definitely a reversal, and potentially we could see these higher prices in the next few months. But you know what, we're going to just let price dictate where we go, and not try and predict too much. As I said in the beginning, if we were trying to predict stuff, we may have lightened up our portfolios a lot on Friday morning and missed the move that we had Friday afternoon. So this is something that, for some reason, my computer is spazzing out, but this is something that I was one of those people that I would listen to the news. I would be turned all different directions. I wouldn't know which way is up, and I would get frustrated, and it showed. And until I really let price dictate where my trading went, that's when I really started to become more consistent and have a plan. And that's what I'm trying to show you guys here, is that having a plan, you don't have to sit here every day, watch it up and down every tick. Doesn't matter. The fact is, you set your stops, you set your alerts, and you let the price dictate, and you let the stocks work for you, and you manage them only when they need to be managed. So with that said, guys, have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll see you on Monday for another strategy session and free trade idea. Take care.